I have made some beautiful mistakes along the way. I have double counted steps, and I have one project that I was unable to complete in time. Hey, you know what? Life happens. Thank you for downloading the latest episode of KDOI Podcasting, Chemo's Den of Iniquity. Hi, my name is Timothy Chemo Bryan. I'm the head instigator here, and now I'm in your ears. And I'm so glad you're here for Season 2's last project, A Place for Everything, the Bookcase Project. So we've done about 12 episodes. And hey, thanks for coming along on this journey with us. I have made some beautiful mistakes along the way. I have double counted steps, and I have one project that I was unable to complete in time. Hey, you know what? Life happens. And I'm going to complete that project because for me, it is important. Now, if you are unable to complete any of the projects that I assigned here this season, no worries. You know what? Take your time. Listen to the episode again and just knock it out. Guess what? You can listen to the episode a year later and still do it. No worries. I do plan on sticking around for a very long time, and I welcome you to do the same. One way to do that is to reach out to me via email, kdoipodcasting@gmail.com. Twitter and Instagram is both at KDOI_podcasting. And you can join up with the Facebook page, TKBRIEN72. The T, the K, the B are all capitalized. The RIEN and the 72 are not. Well, maybe the 72 is capitalized. Who knows? So today's project is a nice way to end this season. Now, you need some place to put all those projects that you made, right? Why not create a bookcase? You can go over to Lowe's. Not a sponsor of this podcast, but you know what? You've spent all this time to create your projects. The last step, and you really should consider this, is to make your own bookcase to display your projects. Now, you don't need to have superb woodworking skills, but you do need to have a basic grasp of math and measuring. Remember, measure twice, cut once. You can't add on wood that you've already cut off. Hey, can you make a box? You can make this project. If you can't make a box, no worries. I've got pictures, and you'll be able to go ahead and make this. You'll be able to go ahead and make a box. And reach out to me. I'm happy to teach you how to do this. Word of caution here, folks. This, again, is a dangerous project. Make sure you have someone nearby who knows the number to 911. Here's a clue. It's 911. Just have somebody there, okay? I want you to be safe. I want you to wear hearing and eye protection because the circular saw is going to get loud. The cordless drill's not so loud, but hey, protect your ears. That way you can listen to more podcasts. See, I'm thinking about your entertainment. Make sure you know how to use your tools by reading the manufacturer's owner's manual. And if you're still unsure, hey, go take a class at your local hardware store, community college, or woodworking shop. Here in Fredericksburg, we have some great shops. And, we're a little small town. We're nothing huge, 60,000 folks. But we've got a few shops here that will teach you how to go ahead and do, basic woodworking. Not a problem. Not everybody knows how to do it. I didn't know how to do it for a long time. My dad showed me a little bit here, a little bit there. But how I got my background in woodworking, working at a theater. So wherever you got to go, knock it out for yourself. At the hardware store, they're going to know. Your artist community, they would probably know as well. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, this is probably the most expensive project. But if you bought extra wood from the ammo flower bed project, you should be fine. Always buy more wood. More wood is better wood. Okay? Remember that. More wood, better wood. I'm not Norm from This Old House or the New Yankee Workshop. And if you know who that is, bonus points to you. You probably know how to work with wood. We're going to be using basic tools here. Heck, I'm not even using glue, all right? That way I don't sniff the glue. I don't get my fingers stuck. I don't have to rip off layers of skin with glue. We're just drilling, screwing, and being done with it. And really, that's all you want out of life. Some drilling, some screwing, be done with it. And then you'll have something to show the next day. Not too bad, huh? You're going to see that with these bookcases, we're going to be putting some good weight on them. So it's going to be able to hold all your projects. And yes, I did say the word bookcases. Why are you going to make one? You need two in order to show off all your projects that you've done this season. And you know what? If you build your bookcase bigger than what I'm going to recommend for you, build one and then build the other one and give it to somebody else. So that way they can go ahead and do these projects as well. And you can let them know where this podcast is, kdoipodcasting.com, and they can listen in as well and have a wonderful time. It's a great gift to give to somebody else. Podcast, who would have thought? It's a gift you can give to somebody else. I always give you a little bit of a story behind these projects. And I'm going to do the same thing for this project, okay? So here's my story. Way back in season 1, we talked to Kurt Cabot. He's a former student of mine way back in my Richmond, Virginia VCU days. And he did talk about the carpentry skill that I bestowed upon him. He had skills to begin with. But my method of teaching is to break things down to the simplest components and build up from there. And then when people want to get, I don't know, a little bit more fancy-dancy, then they can get more fancy-dancy if they so choose. I was looking over Kurt's project on Facebook, where he's encouraging folks to get back into shape through whatever program they want to use. I've had more than a few surgeries in the past 2 years. You've listened to this podcast. I had some throat surgery. I had some brain surgery while this podcast was going on. Had the tonsils out before I launched the podcast, and I had the hernia surgery before the podcast got launched. With all those surgeries, I've put on a couple of pounds, just a few here and there. Oh, and I quit smoking too. Amazing, I know. A lot's happened to me in the past 2 years, as I'm sure that lots happened to you in the past 2 years. So I put on some weight, but I'm looking at what Kurt's doing and what his project is. And it kind of reminded me, hey, listen, we talked about, what he's currently doing right now. When I went back and re-listened to that episode, I knew I had to go ahead and make a bookcase, because one of the things we talked about was making simple shapes in carpentry, making boxes. Now, my skills, again, are mostly self-taught, and they come from watching a little too much of Ask This Old House or New Yankee Workshop. Damn you, PBS. Damn you for making me make things and create TV. May you both rot in hell. No, seriously, folks, you can get some great ideas from these shows. But the important thing to remember is to break down each step and make it simple for yourself. Those folks on those shows, they're doing that. That's a full-time job. They've been doing that for years and years and years and years and years. You're just starting out. That's okay. They had to start off somewhere. You're going to be starting off somewhere. So their stuff should be magnificent. My stuff should be pretty darn good. Your stuff, don't judge what you do by what other people do. All right. If this is your first time doing some woodworking skills, have somebody there with you that has done it before. If you've done some woodworking, hey, this is a great idea. This is going to inspire you to make that bookcase. And it's a nice reward at the end of this season to go, you know what? I got all this stuff laying around. Now I can take it off the floor or take it off some other table, put it in a bookcase, boom, and we're done. All right, it's the cherry on the pie there for you. Which reminds me of a Great White song, She's My Cherry Pie. Great White, not doing any music for this podcast, and that's okay. So basically, I just want you to get out of your chair, do something. I do this for me as well because I have a hectic life, a full-time job, kids, yard work, etc., etc., etc. I've got a 45-minute commute each way. When I get home at the end of the day or on the weekends, I'm as exhausted as you are. But I save a little bit of that energy to do a project and to feel proud about myself and to pass it on to somebody else. And that's what I'd like to have for you. All right, so let's get to the materials list, shall we? So what you're going to need, I would recommend getting 4 1-inch by 3-inch by 8-foot pine boards. or I call them sticks. But go to Lowe's. Again, not a sponsor of the show, but if you're a veteran, they give you a 10% discount. You're going to need 2 sheets of 1/2 inch, 2-foot by 4-foot Masonite. What is Masonite? It's not a ancient underground secular boogeyman sect that's taking over the world. No, 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 no. What Masonite is instead of using plywood, you use the dusts, the sawdust, and all that kind of, some additives and some glue, and you put it all together in a board, and bam, it's kind of like drywall. As a matter of fact, some drywall is Masonite, but I recommend using a 1/2 inch. That way, it's not too bulky, it's not too hefty, but it will hold enough weight so that way you'll be okay. You're going to want a box of interior wood screws. The 1 3/4 is the one that I recommend, and the reason why I recommend those is this. All right, so if you look at your board and you look at your Masonite, and you look how thick that board is, you got a 1-inch thick board, you got an 1 3/4 screw. So that screw is going to go through that board, and it's going to dig into that Masonite by 3/4 of an inch. If you want to go up to an even 2-inch, if you're that anal retentive, then go up to a 2-inch. I wouldn't do a 3-inch screw. Some of these screws that I had in there, because I ran out of 1 3/4, I did 2 1/4. 2, if you're anal retentive. 1 3/4, I think is fine. It'll hold up just fine. Anything lower than 1 3/4, I wouldn't do. Like 1 inch, you're not going to do anything. 1.5 inches, you're living on the edge there. 1 3/4, you should be just fine. And I know I'm talking about screws here. I'm talking a lot about screws here, folks. It's important to get the right tools. Screwing is very important. Now I'm going to talk about drills. You need 2, count them, 1, 2 cordless drills. You can count that on 2 fingers on one hand. You're going to need a star bit. And that is not a bit that requires a lot of attention or anything like that. A star bit will come with the interior wood screws. Mine came with the actual box of those wood screws, and it's just at the head of the screw there. You'll either have a flathead bit, a Phillips head bit, or the star bit, and it allows the bit to grab into that screw tighter and has a better fit, and you won't drop your screws as much. Dropping screws is a horrible thing, especially in my garage. Don't drop a screw in my garage. That's no good. You also want a drill bit. Now, that drill bit is going to be for a pilot hole that you're going to be drilling into your pine board or your sticks and your Masonite, because pine board and Masonite is 2 different kind of species of wood. So you want to definitely be drilling using pilot holes, so that way the screw does not split the Masonite. The Masonite's only 1/2 inch thick. That screw's diameter is going to be probably under 1/4 of an inch, right between an 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch, which is about 5/16. So if you know how to measure, you could have found that quicker than I said it. But I would use, for your pilot bit, I would use like an 1/8 inch, maybe even 1/16 inch of a bit, so that way it goes through the wood. It's not too delicate. The 1/8 inch bit should be just fine, and that'll get you into the Masonite, and you'll be good to go that way. And that way you don't split the Masonite, and you don't split the wood, because split wood is not good wood. Extra wood is always good wood. You'll want a palm sander with 120 grit paper. Now, if you're a big Clint Eastwood fan and you want some true grit on there, just don't shave for a few days. And ladies, hey, don't shave those legs for a few days and rub them against this bookcase, and you'll be just fine. Guys, a couple hours not shaving, you can rub your face against it and get really close. No, don't do that. I'm seeing you guys do that. Don't do that, okay? Get the palm sander. Get a circular saw for this one. It's a corded circular saw. I don't like the battery circular saws. I just don't think they got enough. They don't have enough power behind them. Not enough torque for me. So get yourself a nice circular saw. They're cheap. They're like $30-40. Not too bad. And you'll be using this on wood projects all the time. A pencil. Yeah, you're going to be measuring and marking stuff. A speed square. Now, that's not a square that's on methamphetamines, okay? Speed square looks like a triangle, and it's got a ruler on it, and it's a great way to make sure that things are at 90 degrees, and a great way to get a straight edge for measuring your cuts, for guiding your circular saw if you're wanting to use that as a guide for your circular saw, so that way you're making sure that you're cutting straight. And it's a great way to make angles too, because it is a right angle. It looks like a triangle, and it has markings in there to get you the correct angle degrees that you want to have for other cuts that you may have. And last and certainly not least is a table for cutting and assembly. Now, for me, my table is I have a ladder that bends in 20 different ways. And so I put a piece of plywood on that. Boom, that's my table right there. Maybe I need to build a table for me to work on. I have tables in the back of my garage that are filled with tools and toys and a bunch of crap. So a word of the wise, keep your work area clean. When I was in college and I was the shop guy, I made sure all my students cleaned up after they were done. We stopped about a half hour early before class ended, and I was like, hey, I want this spotless. I want to be able to eat off the floor, because usually I spent late nights there building, sets, eating off the floor. Make sure your area is clean. And if you got kids, have the kids clean up the area. Okay, so right now we're going to take a little time out here while you grab your supplies together. We're going to hear a little bit more about Gray Heroes. That's my podcast on the other side of the universe that's coming out here soon. Probably by the time you hear this, it'll be close to being out, if not out already. So let's take a listen to what we have to say about Gray Heroes, and we'll be right back. Do you like your heroes with little more than 2 dimensions? How about some dirt underneath their fingernails? Tired of heroes in tights and white hats? Come on over to Gray Heroes, where no one gets out clean. Stories about people. People who play by their own rules. Take a listen at grayheroes.com and put those pretty flyboys in capes and tights to bed. Gray Heroes, just a hair over on this side of the law. Gray Heroes, no one gets out clean. New stories every 2 weeks at grayheroes.com. Subscribe today. Let's get some cutting done. What do you say? And this time, let's make sure we walk out of here with all 8 fingers today. Actually, you need all 10 of your fingers to email me. All right, I'm not the greatest at math. My recommendation is do all your cutting first. Do a dry fit, and then glue and screw. But remember, we're not using glue in this project because we don't want to be sniffing that glue anymore. All right, we had enough glue sniffing when we did the collage project and when we did the found art sculpture project. Way too much glue. All right, so I've got some pictures of what my setup looks like and what you're seeing there. So that first picture that you're seeing there, and remember, if you're on the website, KDOIpodcasting.com, you're going to be able to see the show notes really well. If you're on other podcatchers, you may not be able to see the show notes as well. So check it out from the website. It'll link you right up to my Libsyn website, and you'll be able to play all that good stuff. But that first picture that you're seeing there, that's my ladder, and that's with it just kind of, hanging out, doing what it does. That's all the wood that you're going to need there. There's the Masonite boards. And there's the good old circular saw, Little Red. That thing's been with me now for a couple of years, and it's done wonders. Second picture there is you're getting to see what that Masonite board looks like. Of course, Little Red is there, just waiting to cut into that. And that ladder there. Now, that ladder there, I got to tell you, I got that off of Amazon, and I think I paid maybe $60 for that ladder. Now, that thing, it bends a bunch of different ways, and it's a good 6-foot ladder, it's a good 12-foot ladder, and then you can also use it for a table, like sawhorses, which is how I'm showing it right now as a sawhorse. All right, now our first step is to do all the cutting. It's cutting time, kids. So what I want you to do is I want you to take your 8-foot boards or your 8-foot sticks. I want you to cut them right in half, 4 inches. I'm sorry, not 4 inches, 4 feet. Now keep in mind that an 8-foot board is not 8 foot. It's usually a little bit longer. It's usually by about a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch. All right. So when you get an 8-foot board, you're getting a little bit more than 8 feet. So if you just measure 4 feet, you're going to go, oh, you're not going to quite get a 1/2 inch. Well, you're not going to quite get it right in half there at 4 foot because the board is a little bit longer than 8 feet. And then you also have to measure in or factor in the width of your blade because these blades, they have width to them. They have substance to them. They're not nothing. They're usually about 3/16 to an eighth of an inch thick. So you got to factor that in. That's where the math comes in. You know what I say? Screw it. Do it 4 feet. Cut it a little fat. So cut it on. You know, if you're looking at the piece of wood and you're keeping the left side and you're using the scrap on the right side, cut a little bit more on the scrap side of the line. So cut a little to the right. If you're a Republican, cut on the red side. If you're Democrat, cut up some red. There you go. That's my political statement there for you. Send all your hate mail to kdoipodcasting@gmail.com. So cut all those boards down to 4 feet approximately. Remember, we have a palm sander. We can sand that stuff down to make sure it doesn't wobble, to make sure it's a little bit more square. Now, your next step is cut up that Masonite. Now, this is going to end up being our shelf. And then remember, I'm using that 1/2 inch Masonite because it's got enough heft to it that it'll hold up whatever you're putting on the shelf, but it's not too beefy to be overkill. I mean, you could put an inch thick in there, but that's going to just be heavy. We're not using really thick wood for the legs. So that's just going to make the whole thing a little too heavy. Use the 1/2 inch. You'll be just fine with that. Math. So with that Masonite, cut it in half. So it's 4 foot. It's 2 foot by 4 foot. So cut it in half. So it'll be a 2 foot by 2 foot. And then cut it in half again. So that way it'll be a 1 foot by 2 foot. So with that Masonite, you're going to end up with each of those Masonite pieces, you're going to end up with 4 pieces. 3 cuts, 4 pieces, and a partridge in a pear tree. Isn't that awesome how math and carpentry works that way? So the third picture that you have there is what the Masonite's going to look like once you're done cutting up the Masonite. I didn't show you a picture of the sticks of wood because you'll see those later, but that's leaning up against my recycling bin, okay, so folks, we did a lot of cutting there, right? We need to take a break. We need to drink some water or some live soda kombucha tea. Live soda kombucha tea, not a sponsor of this project, not a sponsor of this podcast, but man, it's tasty and it's refreshing. I always like to listen to music while I'm doing these projects. And for this project, I don't know why, I was in the mood for some Bob Dylan. You know, I was getting my granola out, I guess. I was getting my hippie, beatnik, hipster, whatever. So when you're doing this project, let me know what music you're listening to. I mean, back in the day when I used to do theater all the time and I was working in the scene shop, usually listen to a lot of heavier stuff. Now that I'm getting a little bit older, a little bit more mellower, yeah, the Bob Dylan was fine. I think we were listening to Everybody Must Get Stoned during the cutting phase of this. And of course, you know, I've got to, you know, circ saw in hand and shouting out, "Everybody must get stoned." And my neighbors are, you know, they're not walking on the sidewalk when they walk by my driveway. They're actually going out into the street and getting a little bit worried. Here's where the fun begins, folks. Putting all of this together. Now, always, it's up to you. You're free to customize it as you wish. I like leaving it a little bit raw because I'm a fan of stuff that isn't too refined. You know, when I was in college at VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University, not a sponsor of this project or this podcast, but you know what? I'm still paying them a lot of money for student loans. But back in college, did a show called The Madness of King George. And we had this torture chair that we made out of beefy 2x4s. I mean, these things were beefy. And what we did is we took, it looked just like a regular kind of square box chair. You know, nothing too crazy to it. but we beat the crap out of it with chains. And then we dug out like if somebody had been scraping with their fingernails, we took a screwdriver and dug that out. Didn't stain it, threw some leather straps on there for the arms and for the head. And what I would do is I would put that on my porch in the morning, had my cigarettes and had my coffee right there. I'd strap myself in and watch people walk, and walk on the sidewalk there. Weird thing is, where I was living at in Richmond, people didn't really call the cops, didn't pay attention. They kind of looked at me and then walked their dog and moved on. I guess they are used to seeing strange things in Richmond, Virginia. Kind of makes me worried. All right, we're going to put this bad boy together. Now, when you butt up your wood together, you should use a speed square. Myself, I lost mine a long time ago. I use a scrap piece of lumber to mark off measurements, and then I also use a scrap piece of lumber to that I know has a good side, a good 90-degree side on it, to do all my measurements and all my butting with the wood. Have your speed square ready. You're going to put your Masonite on one side and your wood on the other side. Okay. Since we're going to be screwing from wood to Masonite, again, pilot holes. So one of your cordless screwdrivers, one of your cordless drills is going to have the pilot bit, and the other is going to have the star bit. And that way you can switch it out really quick. This is also a great time to have a second set of hands there for you, because when you're putting stuff together, it's always good to have somebody hold it so it's level, so it's square. While you're trying to while you're trying to drill the pilot hole and then screw it in and screw it home. For me, I just had myself. I didn't have a second set of hands. I've got a couple of 4-year-olds. They don't like the loud sounds. Okay, they don't like the loud sounds, so they're not going to help. My stepson wasn't here this weekend, so that's no good. And my wife is watching the girls, so she can't really get in there and get dirty with me. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take 2 sticks and the Masonite, and we're going to measure up 8 inches on the sticks of wood from each side. The 8 inches is where we're going to screw in the Masonite, and that'll be a shelf. So if you're coming from the bottom, measure up 8 inches from the bottom. And what you may want to do is on the backs, one of the sticks of wood is going to be the back leg, and one of the sticks of wood is going to be the front leg. Start with the back leg first. Why not? So set it on edge. Set both pieces on edge. Make sure that they're at 90 degrees perpendicular to each other. Wow, geometry. It's been so long since I've done geometry, but I remember the word perpendicular. And then go ahead and I would put 1 to 2 screws in. You're not going to have much room. For mine, I only put 1 in because there's not a whole lot of room there, and I was just doing it by myself. If you got an extra set of hands, throw in 2 screws. 2 screws is better than 1 usually. That's what I found out in life. Throw your screw in there, and then go ahead and do the front leg and get that knocked out. Now, this is where you'll want to have somebody holding the other sides, because you're going to need the top end of those sticks, so that way you can keep everything nice and level. You're going to want them supported with that. You may be able to get a book or something to stick there between it, so that way they stay supported like that, because you're going to be putting the stick of wood at the very end of the Masonite on both sides. So on the front and the back side of that Masonite, you're going to have those sticks of wood on the side. Sounds a little complicated, but once you take a look at the pictures, you're going to see what I mean. Do the bottom shelf first, and then do the top shelf. You're going to do the same thing with both shelves. Same thing on both sides. So if you get one side just fine, just repeat the process and do it on the other side. Now, once you get that all squared away and set up, take a look at that next picture there. That's what it looks like without the back on it. It's about 4 feet tall, and you got 2 shelves right there, 8 inches off that. Now, you can adjust that however you want, but I like the look of 8 inches. And the beauty of that is that On that top shelf, on the very top there, you can cut another piece of Masonite and toss it at the very top, glue and screw that bad boy in. Then you have 3 shelves. One at the bottom, one at the top, and the one at the very top. You can set stuff up there. But look at that picture. That is very wobbly right there. It needs some structural support. So once you stand it up, make sure everything's nice and square. Then set it back down, lay it down on its back, decide which side is going to be the back. And you're going to take your other 2 pieces of Masonite. Remember, you had 2 big pieces, you cut into 4 pieces. So this is just for one of the bookcases. So you're going to lay this down on its back, and then you're going to take those 2 pieces of Masonite and lay them flat on the ground. And then you're going to screw them in from the sides, so from the wood, the back legs on the wood, and then with the top shelf, screw down into the Masonite, so it'll be on edge like that, and then on the bottom shelf, you're going to screw up into the Masonite. That way, when you're looking at it, you don't see the screw heads, because you can get a special pilot bit that will sink the screw heads in there, but that pilot bit is going to cost you extra money. I think that those pilot bits, they're specialty bits, and they'll cost you an extra $2 or $3 per pilot bit. Unless you're going to be doing this a whole lot, and unless you're really good with your tools, just stick with a regular drill bit, 1/8 inch, and you should be fine with that. If you scroll on down a little bit, you're going to see what I mean by that. So you're going to have your 2 shelves and then your 2 back pieces. Now for me, you see that big old hole in the center there? That's fine for me. That kind of gives it its own little personality for me. It's easy cutting. Everything is the same. All 4 legs are the same. All 4 pieces of Masonite are the same. But when you put that backing in there, it provides a lot of stability to the shelf. Now, if you're going to be having this around kids, what I would recommend you do is that you get a little bracket on the back and put it up against a stud in the wall. And yes, folks, there are studs in your walls. Your wife is correct. Your spouse is correct. Anyways, there's studs in your house. And I'm not standing in your house, but there's studs in the walls. I might be one of those studs. Attach it to me. Now, the reason why you want to attach a bracket like that is kids like to pull stuff. I know my girls love to pull things down. So go ahead and do that little extra safety thing. When you go buy stuff in the stores, and especially kids' furniture, you're going to have that little bracket in there. They're going to say, hey, hook this up to a stud, you'll be good to go. Now, if you've got kids, you're already a stud in my estimation. So, but hook it up to a stud, because since you're the stud, you don't want to stand there 24/7 and watch the bookcase. You want to go play with your kids. So let the stud in the wall hold on to that bookcase for you. That's what their job is. So as you can see in the last picture there, it shows both bookcases. Remember, we're making 2 bookcases this time, folks. 2 of them, because you got a ton of crap you need to put on those bookcases. And you can adjust the height of that however you want. Maybe you don't want that little slit in the middle of that. That's fine. Move the shelves closer together, and that way you won't have that slit in there. That slit is only a few inches wide. It's only about 6 inches wide there. You can move that together and get rid of that, and you're just fine. You just move each shelf 3 inches closer to each other. I like it because I think it has a distinctive look for it, and I dig it. After you're all done with this, I want you to sand the crap out of it. Why don't you take your palm sander and just start sanding the crap out of it? Because when you get wood from the hardware store, Lowe's, Home Depot, wherever you're getting True Value, wherever you're getting it from, it's going to be a little bit rough. So you definitely want to sand all the rough edges off. A lot of times you're going to see that there's staples in your wood. Pull those staples out, because who wants that in their bookcase? Come on now. Get a little professional here. You may have had a boo-boo, a mistake, sand it out. You're measuring maybe a little bit off, sand it off. If you're cutting a little fat, you can sand it off. This is one of the times that you can sand off fat and feel good about it. If you try to sand off the fat on your belly, all right. So let's talk about cost and time breakdown. Now, like I said, there's going to be an expensive project here for you, probably our most expensive, because you're going to need to get the power tools. You're just going to need to break down and do it. You can go to there's some hardware stores that are kind of, I call them knockoff hardware stores because they got stuff there that's pretty cheap and it's pretty cheaply made. Harbor Freight, Northern Harbor are two of them that you can go in there and get the stuff fairly cheap. Um, you can't get wood there, but you can get power tools there. You can get them cheap. You're probably not going to get brand names, and really brand names. I like them. Milwaukee, DeWalt, Ryobi, and all those. There's others that I'm missing. But I like getting those because I'm familiar with them. They're sturdy. They last forever. The stuff that you get super cheap, there's a reason why it's cheap. So that's why this is going to be expensive. The wood is going to be a little bit expensive. For Lowe's, each of those sticks is going to run you about $6. Now, I get the 10% discount because I'm a veteran, so I get them for $4.40. So I save 60 cents, I think, something like that. 10% off of $6 is 60 cents. Yes, great. Rockford, Illinois Public School math. So I get it for, 540, whatever that. Yeah, 540, not 440, 540. So the Masonite, picked that up. Oh gosh, it wasn't too bad. Oh yeah, I picked the Masonite up for $12 a sheet. So I got 2 sheets of that, and I've got the wood. A box of screws cost about $5. So for 2 bookcases, because I have all the power tools, it cost me about $50. Not too bad. And I got 2 bookcases out of it. Now, yeah, can you go to Lowe's and grab some bookcases for cheaper than that? Sure, you can. You can get those plastic ones that look like everybody else's, and you can have them in the wonderful color of gunmetal gray or black. This one, you can throw some paint on there. You can throw some stain on there because you've already sanded it, and you'll be good to go. Now, the Masonite, I wouldn't put stain on. I would put paint on the Masonite because it doesn't take stain too well because it's usually brown already. So I'd throw some paint on that. The pine, throw some primer on that, and then paint it. You'll be good to go. Whatever colors you want. Myself, I like it raw because, hey, I'm running around chasing twins and doing projects and going all sorts of crazy. So I left mine raw like that. Do whatever you want to yours. I'd love to see a picture of how you accomplished this and how you customized it for yourself. So you can always shoot an email out to me at kdoipodcasting@gmail.com, or you can get on the Twitter at KDOI_podcasting. Same thing for Instagram. And then Facebook group is TKB, those are all capitalized, RIEN 72. And you can put your pictures on there, ask to join our group there. I'll let you in. I promise. I won't even charge you. I won't even charge you for that. But yeah, I definitely want to see what you did with this project. It's a simple project. Took me about 2 hours to knock it all out. With the Bob Dylan, it kind of slowed me down a little bit because you gotta yell out. Everybody must get stoned when that song comes on. And, drinking the kombucha tea makes you want to, go hit the bathroom a little extra. Could be prostate problems, could be the kombucha tea. I think it's both. But these bookcases are going to end up in my man cave, and that's where I'm putting the projects for the entire season here. And we'll have pictures in the wrap-up episode that'll be coming in 2 weeks there for you, where we'll be talking about all of the projects. And so I can't wait for that. And if you can't wait for it, let me know, and we'll get it out to you in those 2 weeks. But get onto our website, kdoipodcasting.com, where you can subscribe and knock it all out right there. You can see all the show notes and all the pictures for all the projects. And, let me know what you've done, and I'd love to have you on this show, and we can talk about the story behind what project you decided to do. Or if you decided to do all the projects, let me know. Let's take some pictures and knock it out and get you on the show and let everyone hear what you did. because I'm interested in how you accomplish these projects. All right. So until we talk with you again, I'll see you in 2 weeks. This is Timothy Chemo Bryan, and I'm proud to create more than I consume, and I hope you are creating more than you consume. See you in 2 weeks. I'm going to recommend go ahead and get a vasectomy right now, folks. Don't do this to yourself unless you're going to impregnate your spouse or your spouse is going to impregnate you and you're going to immediately grow 10-year-olds. Okay, you're not going to have to deal with the diapers or anything like that. You're going to shoot out some 10-year-olds and you'll be good to go. Otherwise, get the vasectomy, get the tubes tied, whatever equipment you have, get it snipped. Wait a minute, that's a different podcast. Scratch that. All right.